All right, students, you're kind of looking at me from the top and going to do our welding demonstration. I apologize for the noise. I do have the recovery system on, but I'm going to do our welding demonstration for your first weldment for tomorrow when you come in to weld. So we already have our cross set up. You should have already seen how to set up the cross, so make sure that you watch that 2 or 3 times and that you study it and that you're familiar with it. Okay? We're going to be using E6010, and I'll have a part with some of that out. This is what it looks like. E6010 1/8-inch electrode. It's a dark electrode. It is a high cellulose electrode. It has a unique smell to it, and it is a digging electrode. It will weld through rust, paint, just about anything. It will dig through just about anything. It's used on in a lot of shipyards. It's used in a lot of reconstruction and things like that. It's a very, very popular rod in rebuilding and fabrication and things like that, manufacturing places like that. So you're going to set your machine about 85, between 85 and 80 amps. You might want to start out at about 85, but watch your weld. What tends to happen is when you get to the end, it tends to blow out and leave a pretty big divot here on the end. So that's going to dock you points. You don't want to leave a big divot on the end. Okay, so make sure that you're not leaving a big divot. Okay? As we've talked about before, when you're doing a fillet weld, you already have your root pass here. So we already have that. We don't have to worry about that. But when you're stacking your beads, make sure that you are running on top of the toe of each weld. So our first weld is going to come in on top of the toe of this weld. Our next weld is going to come in on top of the opposite toe here. So it should look something about like so. Okay? And then we're going to come in. Again, in a perfect world, I understand we're not robots, but our next weld is going to come in, and we're going to push that electrode right on top of the toe of this weld, so we should have a weld that would look like this. Right? Then we're going to push the next weld on top of this toe right here, and so we should have a weld that would look like this. Right? Then we're going to push which would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our 6th weld on top of this toe, and so our weld puddle should look something like so. And again, this is in a perfect world. Right? You may have 4 weld puddles here. You may have to make 4 passes here. You may be able to get by with only 2 passes. Okay? But remember that you are stacking your beads on the toe of the weld that you just did. And that's what it should look like in a perfect world. Right? Now, this is what we call a fast freeze rod. A fast freeze rod. Okay? We are not going to be doing a drag motion as we've done with the others. Okay, and I want you welding from here towards the handle. So the handle is going to be where you stop your weld. Excuse me. So it's not going to be a drag motion. You're going to be what we call a stitch motion. And it looks something like this. You're going to establish your arc, and you're going to move forward, push back. Move forward, push back. Okay? Let me move my big fat hand out of the way so you can kind of see. Move forward, push back. Move forward, push back. move forward, push back, move forward, push back. Okay? It's important that you keep the electrode in front of your puddle. Do not let the electrode get behind the puddle, because then you're digging this way, and that's not what you want. You want that puddle to be pushing, you want to be pushing that puddle back this way. And what you're basically doing is you're what we call stacking the dimes. Okay? Let me remove my ground. All right. Okay. So I'm not hot. Okay. You're going to establish your arc. You're going to move forward, push back. Move forward, push back. Move forward, push back. Forward and push back. And then I'm over exaggerating my movements for you, but you're only going to move forward about a 16th, maybe a quarter of an inch at the most. The tendency is as you're moving forward, you want to move up. Okay, do not do that. Okay, you want to move forward and up. Move forward and up. If you start to move forward and up, you will increase your arc length. As you increase your arc length, you will not only increase the heat on your metal, creating problems, but you will lose your arc length as well. Okay, you will lose your arc, and you'll be welding, all of a sudden you'll lose your arc. You're like, what did I do? And as you were welding, you moved up too high. Okay, so it's important. So, used to you were worrying about travel speed, work angle, all of that, but now you've got something else to worry about. Okay, working that motion. I would encourage you, if you've never welded, even if you have welded with 6010 before, I would encourage you to grab some scrap metal out of the bin. And I've got a lot of scrap metal in the bin. Grab some scrap metal. Grab one or two pieces of 6010 electrode, and just practice stacking the dimes a little bit until you're familiar with that motion, and you feel comfortable with it before you just start jumping in here and trying to build your X. You've got 16 weeks to do an 8-week course. You've got plenty of time to get these weldments done. I'm more concerned about perfection and quality of work than I am quantity of work. All right? So take your time. Do it right. I doubt there's any of you that have ever worked with E6010 before. So grab some scrap metal. Practice that in motion. Okay? This rod has a very unique smell to it. You'll recognize that smell. Once you smell it, you'll recognize it forever. And it has a very unique sound and look to it that you're going to see once I start welding here in just a moment. So let me hook up my ground. And I'm going to do 3 passes for you. On the X here, and you definitely want your recovery here close to recover your fumes as you're welding. Okay, so you're going to start again as you're looking at it. You want your X, you want your handle on this side, so you're going to be welding. Okay, so you're going to be welding towards your handle. It's going to be your first weldment. Okay, so I'll do 3 passes. I'll show you each one what they look like, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here we go. Good. Go forward, move back.
Everything back. And you can see this rod is throwing a lot of splatter, a lot of spark. Be ready for that. And then when you get to the end, make sure you put a little extra in there, and then drop your electrode in the bucket.
This is very nasty looking. Yeah, that's what it looks like when it's done. Okay. However,
make sure you keep your helmet on whenever you're tripping.
probably need to take it out and put a wire wheel on it, but it'll be all right.
And again, you notice that I'm not banging it to death with the chip and hammer.
Okay, and I'm going to crank this up and burn through the slag here. But you can start to see where it's starting to stack up the dimes there. Okay, and that's what you're looking for right there, where it's stacking up the dimes. Okay, all right. I'm going to run another pass. Okay, so I've got my first pass. Here. Now I'm going to run my second pass on top of that toe right up here on top of that one. Okay, and I'm going to kick my amps up just a little bit.
Forward and back, forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. And see that I got a little too high as I was coming up, and that's what happens. Is the tendency is you want to start rising with that, okay? And that's what happens. If that happens, just come back here where you left off, restrike your arc, come back up, establish your putter, and just keep moving forward.
I found that is a tendency. If I'm using two hands, sometimes I do that to kind of keep myself steady. If I'm using two hands, if I let go and use one hand, I'm not as steady because I'm an old man and I shake. But I've got a little bit of a nicer beat if I'm using two hands. Okay.
Now, because this is such what we call a high cellulose rod, there's a lot of slag on it, a lot of spatter, and so you may have occasion to go outside and hit it with the wire wheel more often to kind of clean the spatter and stuff off of it. That's totally up to you.
A little elbow grease with the wire brush does wonders. Okay, you can see it's starting to shape up a little bit better there, where you got that stacked dimes look. Okay, if this was mine, I was turning this one in for a grade. I'd probably take it out there. And hit it with a wire wheel. But since this is my demo one, I'm going to run one more pass for you. Okay. Now, what I don't want to see, what we don't want to see is I don't want to see it climbing up on one side. You've got to keep it level. Okay. You've got to keep everything level. Okay. So, on my drawing here, I've got you going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're keeping everything level. All right. If for some reason you run a bead too slow, you may have to put an extra bead, a bead over on one side. It's totally up to you. Okay, you have to make that call. All right. So I'm going to run one more pass in here, and then.
Again, following the toe of the previous weld. What happens is, as this weldment gets hot, it's going to start digging in a little bit more into the metal, and so you have to move a little bit quicker so that you're not burning out too much metal.
Okay. And again, you're seeing how much electrode that I'm winding up with. How much electrode I'm winding up with. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do something that I normally do not let students do. Okay. I normally do not let students put these inside the welding booth. But because I want to show you this weld, and because I have a screen right here to protect you today, I'm going to clean this up real nice and clean so you can take a look at it before I'm done with my presentation. And besides, I'm the one that's cleaning all this up here in a minute before y'all get here tomorrow. Not bad. I've got a few gaps in there. But it's not bad considering I haven't touched 6010 in several years. Okay, but that's basically what we're looking for. So remember, push forward. You're doing a stitch motion. Okay, a stitch motion. Okay, then you're going to fill this first one up. And then you're going to do a cover pass on that with E6011. And we'll talk about that at a later date. Okay? So, if you have any questions on this, send me an email. Put it in the discussion. If you have any questions. And we'll talk about it. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you in the booth. I'm out.